Hey there, my name is Cole Adams, and you are watching the best college basketball podcast out there that covers the entire sport of college basketball, brackets, bubbles, and bid stealers. Now, here are your hosts, Sam Fetterman and Jonathan Lidskin.
Season 6, episode 53 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Jonathan Lidskin. Jonathan, good freaking morning.
Early one, but we got basketball to cover.
First morning pod since championship week.
Yeah, when I was in the PK apartment,
And I was in my Atlantic City
Bloomington,
hotel
Indiana,
room.
before the Big Ten tournament semifinal.
All right, we've got a lot of ball to talk, Jonathan. But before we get there, make sure you're following us on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube, so you know exactly when we go live for a podcast. Make sure you're following us wherever you get your pods. Also, I had a new story come out this morning on Basket Under Review. Spoke with Chance Westry and Andy Kennedy, talked about them. So that's a fun one. You should go and read that. You don't even need a subscription, but you absolutely should. I can't chill out for them because they're not paying me enough to do that. They are paying me enough to write. But definitely take a look at that new article on Basket Under Review. Now, we've got a lot of ball to talk, Jonathan. We had 4 huge games over the last 2 nights. Let's start on Tuesday night at the Champions Classic, where Kentucky got boat raced by Michigan State, Jonathan.
This might be one of the rare occurrences where what happened after the game is more telling than the result itself. Like, that press conference from Mark Pope was concerning, it was sad, and frankly, it sounds like Kentucky's got a lot to figure out. You know, like they have players not on the same page during timeouts to the point where Pope has to step in. And Sam, I have to tell you, if you play that game again, and Michigan State probably doesn't hit 11 threes, and it's closer just by that account. But this felt more like, you know, a culture win for Michigan State, first of all. But it felt more like problems for Kentucky than anything else.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I want to put a stop sign up on the overreactions from Kentucky after this game. They didn't play well. I know with the $22 million roster, I know they got the target on their back. I know that I don't want to make the excuse that they're missing Quaintance and Jalen Lowe, but they do need those guys back. I'm just going to come out and say, look, they've lost 2 games. It's not a good start. They lost 2 games they could have won. They could have won, obviously, but they were never going to win a game. Michigan State is not going to play many close games when they make 11 threes. Jonathan, do you know how many times Michigan State made 11 threes last season?
Was it more than one?
It was 1. It was the Minnesota game. That was it. They made 10 against Bryant and 11 against Minnesota. I don't look at Michigan State as the team. I don't think anyone looks at Michigan State as a team that's going to make a lot of threes. Yeah, they were due for some positive regression, no doubt. You're not a 21% three-point shooting team. But it's really demoralizing when you come out guns blazing and the other team is just making every shot and then they throw in a heave at the end of the half. Really bad mental game in the second half for Kentucky, no doubt. The mental game has a lot of work to do for the Cavs, but I don't think that they have the same amount of problems that most people are talking about. I think they'll be fine. Now, are they a national championship contender? Maybe, maybe not. Definitely not right now, but the season is a couple months long. The season isn't we're not playing the NCAA tournament in late November. We're playing the NCAA tournament in March and April for a reason. Kentucky will have plenty of time to get there. And look, Mark Pope now 0-2 as Kentucky head coach of the Garden, 2 convincing losses to bad teams. Did last year's loss at Madison Square Garden ruin Kentucky's season to Ohio State? No, it didn't. They went on to have a solid year, get a 3 seed in the most difficult conference in college basketball history. Look, I know Kentucky fans would be disappointed at a 3 seed with the amount of money that they spent on this roster, but like I think you have to understand that a 3 seed it's not a bad season in college basketball. Like a 2 seed's not a bad season, and Kentucky is still going to be in play for a protected seed in the NCAA tournament because they're that talented. They have enough. I think they have enough on the defensive end to get it done this year, even though it hasn't looked great so far. Yeah, Brandon Garrison is a problem. Like he's the guy that I look at and say, okay, like this is bad. Owe had a really bad game. I don't think it means he's a bad player. I do think that maybe the idea of him taking a leap was not going to happen. And we have to kind of acknowledge that what he was last year is what he is. And that's probably okay. You can still, like, he was the best player on that team and they got a 3 seed. Like, again, they will be fine. But the relative of fine is probably, like, they're probably not going to win a national championship this year. But only one team does.
Yeah, with Owe again, like what he said after the game was probably more concerning than his actual performance itself. Like, again, we know he's a good player, but like your leader, your star, like comes out and basically says like, you know, I have an effort problem right now. Like
not good at all.
How? Like you're playing in the Champions Classic in Madison Square Garden. Like, how is that an answer? I think that like this game probably shows that like they need Jalen Lowe. Their playmaking in the half court just wasn't there, and it's not like they're turning it over a bunch.
Yeah, Jonathan, you said on the last pod that if Kentucky wins, you were going to have a Jalen Lowe Ewing theory segment.
Not doing any of that today, but they need him. And yeah, I think that they probably need Jaden Clayton still. But yeah, like Malachi Moreno is better than Brandon Garrison, and I think that's pretty clear right now. There's a lot here that you can point fingers at, but Kentucky needs to be better. Bottom line. So Sam is running to take something out of the microwave right now. That's just wonderful. So if you want to dive into the Michigan State side of this, because there was another team that played in this game, they have.
Yeah, I want to dive into the game itself. I think the thing for Michigan State, like this is an anomaly, and we have to understand that when we evaluate this game. But Michigan State seems to be the best team in the country every single year at winning anomaly games.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is a huge credit to Tom Izzo, who is one of the best coaches in the sport still at this point. If you were doubting whether he still had it after not getting a top 6 seed for 4 straight years, he still has it, Jonathan. But this team comes out guns blazing, as I mentioned, and they were prepared. They were so well prepared for this game. They knew everything that they needed to do. And I also just want to say, like, Jackson Kohler has taken a step. He looks so much better this year than last. He's already taken 14 threes versus 51 all season last year. So we might see him taking closer to 75, 100 threes this year, which is huge for them because of the lack of spacing that they get from their backcourt because of the lack of spacing that they get from Fears and the lack of spacing they get from Carr and Cooper. It's big. And Kurt Tang was really good in this game. First time I've really been impressed by him. It was more just kind of shot making. But again, shot making is going to win you games. And And you just got to stack wins together. But the star for Michigan State is Jeremy Fears. Jeremy Fears,
No doubt.
Jonathan, is arguably the best point guard, not named Braden Smith in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way he controls the game is impressive, and I think that's the story for Michigan State coming out of this. Jackson Kohler had 20, but Jeremy Fears playing that way and now doing that a couple times because he did it against Arkansas too is something to monitor moving forward. He is. I think it's probably fair at this point to call him one of the best two-way guards in the sport. He had 8 points and was quite easily the best player on the floor.
Yeah, defensively kind of sucked the life out of Kentucky's guards. I also just want to say, look, Denzel Aberdeen had a really bad game as well. Jasper Johnson came in and gave them a boost a little bit. Colin Chandler wasn't very good. Trent Noel was Kentucky's guards were really bad in this game too. And I think that's a huge credit to Michigan State's backcourt defensively. Fears was all over ball handlers. And when you don't have your primary ball handler and you're getting hounded by a guy like Fears, that's going to make life really difficult. But again, I don't know how many games Michigan State's going to make 11 threes. But I think this game is a lot more reflective of what Michigan State is than what Kentucky is.
You watched this live. How was Michigan State getting open? Was it just like
they hit a couple? They hit a couple and kind of post was being doubled early. Then they kind of forced Kentucky to stop doubling the post and hit some tough shots.
Were they running their pin downs and elbow cuts?
Yeah, they were running their typical stuff.
Okay.
It's Michigan State. They've been running the same stuff for 30 years, and it still works.
Yeah, I mean it's not a system that goes against the grain. What they do is not unusual. They just usually have guys that can execute it pretty well.
Yeah, it's all about execution, Jonathan. Execute.
Yeah, we love that word here. Anything else from this? Yeah, I think.
Sorry about that. It's still early in the morning.
I think that Kentucky moving forward, they have a couple bye games before UNC. That game's at home. Then they have Gonzaga, so and then Indiana.
And I also think it's important to note, not making any excuses, obviously, but both of Kentucky's big games so far have come away from home. I think it'll be a big boost for them to get that Rupp Arena crowd against North Carolina on December 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that look, the Rupp crowd needs to be positive, and it can't be a morgue when they go back there for Loyola, Maryland. They have to show up and they have to be a positive reinforcement for this team because this team kind of seems like they need it right now.
Well, they'll show up.
Yeah.
But the energy is what'll tell you.
This team needs positive energy around them. And obviously you don't want to hear that. You shouldn't have to coddle a college basketball team that's getting $22 million to be on the court. But that's where they're at right now. You got to take it for what it is and forget all the other stuff, forget all the context, because this is not going to go well if there's animosity, because it seems like the players and coaches can take that personally.
You remember when they lost to South Carolina a couple years ago and the place was just a shock isn't the right word. It was just it fed off bad energy.
Yes.
And that's what I'm kind of worried Rupp could turn into if this thing is going sideways.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk Duke, Kansas, Jonathan. I did not watch a second of this game. I was at Syracuse Monmouth. Jonathan watched it from start to finish. Jonathan, what did I miss?
Kansas played really hard, and Duke's defense in the early part of the game was not good. They turned it over too much, and it let Kansas get in transition, which frankly was the only way that Kansas could score, because in the half court they weren't really generating many good looks. Trey White was really good. Like, they needed every bit of what he did to stay in this game, and it was him and it was Flory Bidunga on the defensive end. And the second that Flory went out of the game with 2 fouls in the second half, or in the first half, I should say, that's when the game flipped. And Duke went on their run, and they run a nice action to end the half. Isaiah Evans hits 3. They go up 8. Kansas did get it close in the second half, but Duke pulls away late. Again, in part thanks to big shot making from Isaiah Evans. Cam Boozer did not have his best game, still impacted it, still finished with a double-double and 5 assists. His playmaking is frankly ridiculous for a guy that size. And, there's some stuff to point out both positively and negatively for Duke. But I think the story, in my opinion, coming out of this is there is a high ceiling for Kansas if their role guys can play like this when DP comes back.
Yeah, this is kind of the first time we've seen Kansas play. Obviously, we've now seen them play 2 big games in the post KJ Adams, Hunter Dickinson, DeJuan Harris era that defined Kansas basketball. How would you kind of evaluate the differences so far, Jonathan? What does it look like?
Well, I mean, without Peterson, they're not running close to the same offense that they ran last year, because they can't. But I think generally, there were a lot of positive signs last night. Last year and 2 years ago, at least in the second half of 2 years ago, you just didn't see many games like this with this type of effort from their role players. Council had his moments. I've obviously already mentioned Trey White, Jaden Dawson that had his good moments. They're really thin right now, which isn't unusual for the last couple years, and they still will be when Peterson comes back. But it's a different Kansas team from what we've seen over the past couple years. They're not trying to do the same things, and I don't imagine that they will even when Peterson's back. But
yeah, Jayhawks do not have the most difficult players era schedule. They played Notre Dame and Syracuse. The thoughts.
mm-hmm.
And then they will likely, if DP go 2-0 in those games and get a really big game for the third game. But if DP doesn't play, we'll have to see what happens. That kind of opens the door for a Syracuse or a Notre Dame. Notre Dame, obviously, a lot of continuity. Syracuse, strong defense to start the season. I think they're still number 1 in raw defensive rating. Yes, they are, 77.2, right ahead of Gonzaga, 78.5, and Cincinnati, 78.8. So Kansas now down to 30th. Okay, I'm definitely not a panic time, but it is pretty low for what that program is. But I would say an inspiring effort.
Yeah, no, I'm more encouraged by Kansas if anything coming out.
Absolutely, I think everybody should be after that. But I will add, for Duke in this game, this is another example of Cam Boozer can be the best player on the floor, scoring 0 points or 20 points. I think Cam Boozer is unbelievable, and I don't understand any of the people. And I went back and watched some of the game on film. So, I know I said I didn't watch a second of it. I watched film. There are so many people out there that, legitimately think Cam Boozer is, dropping, big time on their boards right now. On their NBA draft boards. Because I follow the No Ceilings guys. And they were had a lot of those Cam Boozer haters in their replies. Jonathan, do you know what Cam Boozer is averaging right now in college basketball?
Yeah,
He's averaging 21.6 points, 10.4 rebounds, and 4.4 assists per game on 51% from the field and 35% from three. They are saying he cannot finish at the rim. He is shooting over 64% at the rim, I believe. And let me make sure I have that exactly right. I get that it's been a little tough in the big games finishing through contact. He did not have a very good first half against Texas. This was not his best game by any means against Kansas either. But I don't understand the panic around him. Cooper Flagg was not an immediate best player in college basketball the moment he stepped on the floor last year, but he was still putting up numbers the same way Boozer is. I think Flagg took a month or two to really hit his full speed. I think Boozer might be the same, and that's fine. AJ DeMonsta had a horrible first half against UConn. Darren Peterson's hurt right now. There's no these guys don't all come in and immediately become superstars on night one. Cam Boozer is still putting up numbers. He's still number one in Ken Pom Player of the Year by a lot right now somehow. But the numbers are incredible, even if the film is catching up. But there's no reason to believe he won't get there. He gets to the line a ton. He's finishing at least a decent enough rate. The assist to turnover ratio is unbelievable. He's a great rebounder. The offensive rating is 140. The fact that he's not playing well and the numbers are this good is as encouraging as it is. He is such a talented passer, such a talented winner. I don't know how you can say talented winner, but Cam Boozer is a talented winner. He just knows how to win. He makes the winning plays. He's a superstar that makes winning plays like he's a role player. And I think that's the best compliment I can give a player.
Yeah, I think there's so much more to, just how you shoot the basketball, especially on an off night, which this clearly was. Yeah, Cooper wasn't spectacular in non-con last year. He hit his stride, later in the year and, really established himself as the best player in the country then.
Okay, Boozer is 60% of the not 64, it's just 60.
I think it should say something that Cam Boozer can get these critiques and still right now is Ken Pom's runaway favorite for National Player of the Year.
And I don't think the critiques are for the most part invalid. I think that dropping him on your board is invalid. But
his rim finishing
he has struggled finishing through contact. I never thought that was going to be a problem because it was never a problem in high school. So why do I think it's going to be a problem 3 weeks from now when he's a little more adjusted to the college game?
His rim finishing is obviously, those critiques are fair. They could be better. But what he does outside of that is honestly so impressive.
He was 69% at the rim in high school, playing against the most difficult high school schedule in the country. Remember, this was a Columbus team that basically they ran the gauntlet. They played all the best teams, and they beat all the best teams. And he was 69% at the rim. I get that it's high school. I get it's a different level. But come on, guys. Come on. Let's be serious here for a second.
He's probably the best rebounder in the sport, and if he's not, he's one of the top 3 or 5 at worst. His passing
out.
Huh?
Carson's out.
Yeah. I mean,
Del Recco Gillespie.
They'll play to him and Tout.
They will not play Del Recco Gillespie though.
No. His passing is what stands out to me right now. The way he's able to see over the top of doubles and.
Wow, Jonathan, do you know who's leading the country in defensive rebounding rate right now?
From a team perspective?
No, from a player. You'll never get this.
Who?
Ian Elmer.
Really?
Yeah. Now, it's only been 2 games for him, but wow.
One other observation I had from this. Caden Boozer will eventually be this team's starting point guard, as I have been saying all summer.
No doubt. Duke plays Niagara and Howard, welcoming Jonathan, Greg Paulus, and Kenny Blakeney back to Cameron Indoor. We will not be talking about Duke until
I'll be at the Arkansas game on.
We probably will do a pod Tuesday or Wednesday night talk early feast week, and then get into some of the late feast week preview stuff. So this won't be the last time we talk about that, and we will have 26 minutes in. We've already planned our next pod tomorrow, Friday, noon Eastern. We will be joined by Kevin Sweeney of Sports Illustrated. We love having him on the show. We're so glad that he can come on, and we'll have him preview Feast Week with us. Love this from Logan. People are.
We're also we have tomorrow's pod scheduled. We've had it scheduled this week.
Great, you guys have a podcast for people with double-digit IQs.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
All right, Jonathan. 2 huge games last night that we got to talk about, and they were both delivered. We saw 2 of the best point guards in the country deliver down the stretch, and Jonathan, we've got to talk UConn, Arizona first, because Gamble Pavilion was absolutely ballistic, rocking. It was $2 beer night. Tommy Lloyd said after the game, man, that was awesome. I can't wait to see what it's like on $1 beer night. The UConn always does a good job with like getting the $2 beer night promotions and stuff. I will say the BYU game at the Garden was feral. This game was also feral. Illinois at Madison Square Garden next week is going to be feral as well. Like, I use the word feral so much when I talk about UConn crowds, and I don't use the word feral with like anything else. But it's just because that's the feeling you get when you're watching a UConn game. Like, these people are not normal people that are going to UConn games. Like, we are, like, as someone who grew up a UConn fan, we are not normal people. Like, we are sickos.
Well, you are not a normal person, but we knew that.
But Arizona goes into Campbell Pavilion. UConn does not have Braylon Mullins, who has still not made his debut. Hopefully that comes this weekend against Bryant. I will be at People's Bank Arena /XL Center /Hartford Civic Center for that game for Daily Dose of Hoops. Hopefully we see Braylon Mullins in that game. And the UConn, more importantly, did not have Taurus Reed, who has been one of the best big men in the country. And, man, Arizona took advantage. 52% inside the arc. They only took 10 threes in this game. I think that really plays into Arizona's hands. They're 360th in three-point rate right now in terms of attempts. But they have been the more physical team against Florida, against UCLA, and now against UConn. They led by 13. And one guy that I got to give my flowers to for this game, and it's not the guy who was the star, but it's the guy that I think was the key, was Ivan Karchenkov. I think he played some really good minutes. Played 29 minutes. Did a really good job on Caravan when he was guarding him. Did a really good job, really, whoever he was guarding. And I think Karchenkov was one of the keys on the defensive end for this game for Arizona. And then Koa Pete, Mo Krivas, destroyed the glass. 43-23. Arizona won the glass in this game, Jonathan. UConn's not going to get out-rebounded by 20 very much. That's just not going to happen. The Huskies might not be the best rebounding team in the country, like they used to be under Danny Hurley when they had Isaiah Whaley and then Adama Sanogo and Klingon. They were winning national championships. But I do think this team is not going to get blown out on the glass. And I think that Arizona doing that just kind of shows that they might be the most physical team in the country.
Yeah, like that's something that we've said since opening night when they put Florida. But
they brought it. They brought game.
I think that a lot of times it's easy to say when a player's missing that, like, oh, you know, if they have him, they win. Like, that's not always the case, but in this game it absolutely was with Taurus Reed. Like, Arizona dominated the boards. They got what they wanted inside with Krivas and Pete. And again, like, Arizona wins even without Reed. Arizona wins a game where they make 2 threes, 9 assists, 10 turnovers for the Cats. This just it seems abnormal in modern college basketball for a team to win this way.
And I don't know how sustainable it is. I really don't. To me, I know this is going to sound really, really harsh coming after winning 3 huge games early in the season all the way from home. But to me, Arizona feels like a November basketball team. They feel like a team that's winning in November because they're bringing the physicality. They don't feel like a team that. Now, I'm not going to say they're not going to win a national championship because I have no idea. But I feel like the sport might catch up to them in a sense. They are right now ahead of the pack, ahead of everyone because of their physicality. And I think there's a huge credit to Tommy Lloyd for having freshman Koa Pete ready to go this well, having Jaden Bradley as the leader of this team, having Mo Krivas back from injury. Karchenkov has looked really good. Alaka's obviously bringing his energy. So I think there's a lot of credit goes to Tommy Lloyd for that. But I do think that kind of the way they're winning isn't exactly sustainable because they're just not taking any threes. And I want to see that going forward. Maybe that means, hey, Braden Berries has to get going. And I think Braden Berries, maybe he does get going, maybe he doesn't. But look, they did not need a big like Anthony Delorso performance in this game. He played 26 minutes, but he only took 2 threes. That's their best shooter, and they still win this game. So at the end of the day, Arizona is able to win these games without Delorso having a big game, without Berries having a big game. But are they going to be able to win those games down the road? Because they're already they already had a shorter rotation today, down to 8 guys, and UConn was a short rotation too, but they were down a couple guys due to injury. The rotation is probably going to expand back up to 9, I would say, because I don't think Karoma is part of the main rotation. But he was good. I honestly thought Karoma gave UConn some good energy. But yeah, Eric Ryba led UConn in scoring, but was clearly not ready for the physicality that Arizona brought. Was a little bit hesitant on some threes. Again, you don't want him just bombing threes, but he is a capable shooter, and they were leaving him open, and he did hit 2 of them. Just for UConn, though, to be in this game, to have a chance to win it late, when solo ball was bad, or at least bad from 3, Alex Caravan did not play well at all. And and you didn't have Taurus Reed. And you got out-rebounded by that much, and you couldn't make free throws. Like, UConn's going to be just fine. Just fine. Now, no interest in I'm going to quote Mr. Hotballs. No interest in seeing Taurus Reed play basketball on Sunday. None. Get him ready for Illinois. If he has to miss Illinois, he has to miss Illinois, and he's back for Kansas. If he has to miss Kansas, he misses Kansas, and he's back for Florida. Just no interest in seeing him against Bryant or East Texas A&M if he misses the Illinois and Kansas game, obviously. But if he plays Illinois and Kansas, obviously he plays East Texas A&M. But UConn's schedule, it gives them the margin to do something like this because they still have Illinois, they still have Kansas, Florida, Texas. That's 4 more big non-conference games. Now, only one of them is a home game. 2 of them are at the Garden, so they are semi-home, and they will be heavy UConn crowds. And it's going to be Storrs South. So metrically, it's going to help them because they get the semi-home, but that's still technically considered neutral. So it's going to look good on the quad ones, and it's going to be a big crowd. Kansas, they got to go to Allen Fieldhouse, and man, if Darren Peterson's back for that game, that's going to be a really fun one. Remember, UConn did not have Stephon Castle 2 years ago when they went to Allen Fieldhouse and lost. I don't think there's any concern about UConn. I think there's a lot of fight, and I texted this during the game. UConn and Arizona, man, they have so many dogs, if there was a Dog of the Year award in college basketball, Jaden Bradley is the current winner. Mm-hmm. Silas Demery's close. For what he did against BYU, he was a dog. He was a dog yesterday as well. But man, Jaden Bradley is a dog. Jaden Bradley has thus far been the most consequential player in college basketball.
How do we know he wasn't this good last year?
I mean, he was really good.
How do we know, like, in a prominent role, he wasn't this good, though?
I don't know.
I don't think we ever will.
But, I think Arizona was just fine last year. They were a pretty good team. They were 4 seed, made the Sweet 16, and lost to Duke in a close game and Caleb Love went off against Duke. Like, it's not like they lost that game because they didn't get production from their guards.
Yeah.
But man, Jaden Bradley closed out the game against Florida, closed out the game against UCLA, closed out the game against UConn. That step through, man, I don't know if you've seen it. Whew, that was some special stuff by Jaden Bradley.
Looked like he might have gotten away.
I said again, like I grew up a UConn fan. I cheer for UConn. Like the losses don't really hurt me as much as they used to. Like with 2 national championships as recently as there are. Like Saturday night, like I was going nuts at the Garden because I didn't get a credential and I was just there as a fan, and like I was sitting next to some crazy UConn fans. So like that was that. But like watching this game, I was like watching on 2 screens with this and then Mount St. Mary's, Maryland. So like I didn't really like feel this loss. I didn't take it hard as like a UConn guy.
I mean, how could you? Like they're missing 2 important players.
And like the losses don't impact me as much as they used to anyway. Last year was the same way. But also, like, man, I love Jaden Bradley. A couple of years ago, you would never get me to say that after a guy closed out a game against UConn. But right now, like, man, I love Jaden Bradley. He's awesome. One of my favorite players in the sport right now because I love the 4-year development story of a point guard who it took him a little bit to really get going. He wasn't. I didn't think he was great at Alabama.
He wasn't. He got played out of a starting spot there.
Yeah, and then eventually just comes back and is exactly what you want from your veteran point guard on a team that has maybe its best player as a freshman in Goa Pete. I would still argue, though, Jaden Bradley is this team's most consequential player. Pete might be the best. Bradley's the most consequential.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
All right, let's talk about the game you were at last night at the United Center. Alabama, Illinois, another tremendous game with a point guard taking over down the stretch.
Yeah, tremendous basketball game. Was really fun to be in person for it.
It felt like this game was kind of like you had. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I felt like this game had like the stretches where no one was scoring and then stretches where everyone was scoring. It was a game of runs, but the runs weren't made by either team. They were made by both teams together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think for starters, LeBaron Fallon is freaking awesome. And so is Andrei Stojakovic. However, I think if you want to look at like where Alabama won this game, like I think it's in the margins. Like the way they shot from the free throw line, the rebounding was significant. Even though they got out rebounded, even though they got out rebounded by 2, it was significantly better than it was against Purdue. Yeah. And I think that's a storyline to follow moving forward, and that's in part because of Keaton Bristow coming back.
Bristow's awesome.
He made a huge difference both on the boards and on the defensive end. And honestly, like he was a pretty good offensive player for them last night too.
Yeah, I think he was kind of the guy that unlocked the game in the second half and kind of pushed them forward.
Yeah.
I want to give him that credit. Jonathan, keep going.
I think I said this to you last night. Bama's like one of the only teams that you can consistently say sucks the life out of you on the offensive end. Like that place was crazy last night. It was sold out Illinois home game at the UC, obviously. So it's going to be. But
by the way, awesome that we can get like Illinois basketball like being good and selling out the United Center.
Yeah, because Brad said it after the game.
For a bunch of years there, like in the mid 2010s, like they were just like Brad's first couple of years and Gross's tenure and the end of Weber. Like they were just not good enough to sell out the UC. Like they were not good enough to play these types of marquee games. And like I feel like they haven't played like many games at the United Center the last couple of years. Like I don't think they did against Arkansas. No, that was not.
They haven't since 2018.
Yeah, so like really good
outside of like the Big Ten tournament. They haven't actually.
Really good for the sport. That Illinois is like a marquee program, and we have a marquee program that's going to sell out the United Center. So like we have like marquee programs now, obviously sell out the Garden, UConn, St. John's. We have marquee programs selling out the United Center. Like you know, like Indiana's always going to do it. Purdue
This is one of the
but like also with Illinois doing it now, you've got marquee programs that can sell out. Now again, you're never going to get like a sellout at the Intuit Dome or at Staples, but you got a really good crowd for UCLA, Arizona. So I do think that we have marquee programs now that are making these neutral site games a little bit better.
Last night was one of the few non-MTE neutral games that like made sense to play, because there's a lot of Illinois fans in Chicagoland area. There's a lot of fans of a lot of schools in the Chicago.
Well, no, I actually think there's more of these games than you think. Like the UConn Illinois game, and then UConn's going to play Illinois in Chicago after UC next year.
For certain fans, for certain teams and fan bases, it makes sense. But
now, yes, I think like Duke, they can go anywhere. Kentucky, they can go anywhere. Carolina can go anywhere. Kansas can go anywhere. Indiana, for the most part, can go anywhere. Teams like that, like they can really do that. And Illinois being able to host these games, and UConn in the Northeast, and man, BYU fans really travel too. Like they're going to have their own kind of semi-home game at the Delta Center on Friday against Wisconsin.
On the game, more on the game. Bama matchup hunted down the stretch, specifically LeBaron Philon matchup hunted, and that's how they eventually closed it out. That and missed free throws from Illinois, but I think that one thing I noticed last night, in addition to Alabama, in addition to all that went on, like getting back to what I was saying, I think that it's so demoralizing for a team when you use 25 seconds of the shot clock, work really hard to get a good post touch and eventually a 2, and Bama comes down and just hits a transition 3 within 7 seconds of the shot clock starting.
They're awesome. It's so good.
And that happened on more than one occasion last night, from what I can remember.
Jonathan, LeBaron Philon right now is 6th in KenPom National Player of the Year.
Yeah, deservedly so.
Would he be higher than that on your ballot?
Is there any SEC players above him?
Right now?
Maybe.
Let me check. Immense 5, yeah. I think right now, Philon would probably be my pick for if the season ended right now.
Amari Allen had some really nice moments yesterday. I think he's probably a solid rotation guy for them moving forward.
Yeah,
they need more from Sherrill. He had 4 fouls in 9 minutes.
Yeah, they absolutely do. But the fact that they can go out and win this game against a physical Illinois team like that is big. Again, did not get full Tomislav Ivic, full Mihailo Petrovic. So this is not the best version of Illinois that we'll see. And I think they were still clearly trying to work them both back in. Tomislav was not his usual self. Petrovic had himself a solid game, I think. We're going to see. I don't leave this game thinking any less of Illinois. But I loved David Mirkovic in the first half. I thought he was just everywhere, all over the floor. Second half, complete opposite. Didn't really feel him. And that's kind of the thing about Mirkovic, is when he's on the floor, at least in the first couple games of the season, you felt him wherever he was. He was everywhere, because that's kind of what he's able to do. First half was more of that. Second half was very much not. And I think that that's something to keep an eye on. Again, Keaton Wadler had 4 really strong games to open the season. Last night was not one of his better games. Again, freshman, first couple games. Notable thing. Big Z man. Not good.
Yeah. I mean, they played Humberhouse over him down the stretch of that game. And
yeah, I think Illinois is going to be fine. I think this is still clearly one of the 10 best teams in the country.
One of the mistakes Illinois made last night, I think, was not playing through Mirkovic in the second half. He was like barely noticeable out there in the second half, and that can't happen.
I also
Now,
think
like,
Andrei Stojakovic's game, like that guy is just a gamer.
yes, can I also add something though?
Yeah.
He can't have 0 assists and 5 turnovers.
Absolutely agree.
Like, if he's going to be the guy for them, like 31% usage rate last night, 26 points, obviously shot it very well and did some great things. But if you're going to be the guy and draw that much attention, like, you need to play make.
Yeah, I agree. But I loved watching this game. It felt very NBA paced because it was up and down, a lot of threes.
You could feel it right away. I mean, I don't know if it felt the same way on TV, but like when the game tipped off, like you could feel the energy.
Oh, absolutely! I thought both teams.
It was going to be one of those games.
I thought both teams were really pushing the ball. Like, early in the game, like Illinois kind of jumped out. Like they had like the first punch. They were up a couple points early, and they were pushing the ball down the floor. And I'm like, man, Illinois is just like taking it to them right now.
Also, I want to point out a couple micro things from the end of the game. And
I want to talk about micro things.
I know you. What do you say?
I love talking about micro things.
You tweeted about one of these things, but there was something else I noticed too. The first, we'll go the shorter one first. Alabama fouled up 3 with like 7 seconds left.
10.1.
Was it that much?
It might have been.
I think it was like 8.1.
It was very, very early, and it was very, very far from the basket. What are your thoughts?
So normally, like, you're right, like they're gonna have to do it again. But I want to point your attention to something. We have a new rule in college basketball this year.
Continuation.
It's gonna be harder to follow up 3 because of that.
No doubt, and I'm trying to work on like a little piece where I'm asking coaches to anonymously to be anonymously quoted talking about some of the new rules and officiating in college basketball. That was something a coach mentioned to me about fouling up 3. So that continuation could play a role into whether they decide to continue doing it.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that I noticed. Nate Oates at the end of the game was subbing offense defense, and it was really more offense rebounding than offense defense. Like, he was taking Bristow and Bo Bowen, and Sherrell off the floor late in the game in favor of, like, Millette, Wrightsell, like getting those guys back in there, and Amari Allen eventually followed out. So, like, but there was a sequence where he's doing this, and Illinois can cut it to 2, I think, on a missed free throw, or on a made free throw, or maybe it was 1. But he left. He didn't sub at the first free throw. He waited till the second free throw to do it, and Illinois missed the free throw, and Bama got the rebound because of that. And, like, Bristow had to shoot free throws, and he made both. But, like, I just thought it was, like, very smart on Nate Oates' part to, like, wait to take your guards out, knowing that, like, the worst Illinois could do was tie it. And Bama was in double bonus, so they weren't in risk of, like, only getting one free throw. So they, like, Oates knew he could take that risk and, like, preferred having Bristow in there for rebounding than, like, getting the guards back in there earlier against the press. I would have to, like, go back and watch the sequence again to tell you, like, exactly what the score was and, like, how much time left. But there was a sequence where, like, he left the rebounding lineup in, because I thought, and it was very, very smart.
Yeah. Anything else on the 4 big games that we talked about now?
One more thing on the Illinois side. I think, like, you can come away encouraged that you played like that in the second half and down the stretch in the first half without, without two players at full strength that are going to be important players for you. There were real flashes with Petrovic last night.
Absolutely.
He hit kind of rhythm dribble 3 in the first half, and when Tommy checked in and when he checked in, huge ovations for them at the UC.
Yeah,
Petrovic
beautiful.
also quietly had 5 assists in 12 minutes.
No, he's good.
So he will make. You could argue that he will be the one to make this offense go at some point during the season.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Quick whip around segment. I wasn't able to watch all of these games. Was able to catch at least a little bit of them though. Man, NC State VCU. This was a really, really fun basketball game between two really, really fun basketball teams. I thought Darion Williams, though, kind of proved why he's a superstar in this game.
Yeah, I think that I didn't get to watch this one, but what it seems like is it just came down to NC State having better players and better athletes. They out rebounded them. The guys that they invested in and paid a lot of money to get, those guys delivered. Darian had 28, Holloman with 25. This is a really good basketball team.
Matt Abel was awesome, shooting the bench in this game. I think that's going to be a big deal going forward. And just kind of something to monitor because we were talking a lot about VCU's guard rotation in the preseason and how it was going to shake out.
Yeah,
Ahmad Noel only played 2 minutes in this game. Did not score. He has been coming off the bench for them. Nick Lewis has been really fun so far. He had the really good game against Utah State. Was not quite as good in this one. Played 29 minutes. Jadrian Tracy was good. Brandon Jennings. Again, that's kind of their defensive ace in the backcourt. He started, and they've been bringing Tyrell Ward off the bench as kind of their bench scorer. But he did not have an excellent game either in this one. I love Barry Evans. I think he's really fun. I thought he was one of the more underrated players in the Northeast last year, and he's been really solid. But yeah, for NC State, this is a really good win to have early in the year.
So a couple things on the
we're kind of a gotta have it for VCU after the loss to Utah State. Maybe not a gotta have it, just would be really nice to have it.
So that's one of the points I was going to make. I think, not getting one of these two if you're VCU is frustrating.
You go to Atlantis.
We try to stay away from resume stuff in November, but for a team like VCU in the A10, it is notable. And second of all, we talk a lot about what's the best scenario for teams, what's the worst scenario for teams. Are you at all concerned that Tyrell Ward and Ahmad Noel are probably not one of the best players for this team?
No, I think Ward's fine. I think Ward's fine. I think
they're not playing him that much.
I think he's kind of working back from something.
Okay.
And I think he's fine as kind of that bench scorer role with how much they can get out of their starting lineup.
Nick Lewis is absolutely as advertised.
Yeah, he's very good. Tracy's been good. Djokovic has skill. Very
aggressive on the ball, good getting to the rim.
I'm not worried about VCU. Obviously, they got to go to Atlantis and make some noise. That's probably outside of Players Era. Atlantis is better than Maui this year. Just kind of looking at the brackets.
I like both fields.
Yeah, I think Atlantis is better.
Listen, I think that you're going to hear a lot of complaints in the next week about Players Era, and this is obviously we'll get to this on tomorrow's show, but those fields are still good if you're a college basketball fan.
Yeah, Maui is
but even Maui, you still have NC State, you still have USC, but
no. Maui's it's not a bad field at all. But no, I prefer. I think there's more intrigue with Atlantis.
I agree. I agree. I think that
because I think there's more at stake.
The bottom half of the bracket at Maui is not great. In terms of intrigue, and part of that is Chaminade being in the field, but I think this does some good and bad things for college basketball.
Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
This week is like this.
Another thing that I wanted to mention, from a bad result, from a disappointing result in the A10 to a very good result in the A10, Dayton goes to Marquette and wins. But honestly, I think this says more about Marquette than it does about Dayton. Marquette forced 25 turnovers and still lost this game. Dayton made some big plays late. Keontae Jones was not his best statistical performance, but had some huge plays because when he needed to at the end, Abel Latam was not only scored 5 points in 34 minutes in this game. And Dayton still comes out on top, and that's kind of a matchup that you think you'd have, that you think he'd do pretty well with, considering Marquette doesn't really have super strong interior defense. But for Dayton in this game, they did do a good job scoring inside because their guards did a good job of that. Deshane Montgomery got out in transition. Javon Bennett got to the paint. So I think for Dayton, good result. It'll help them. It'll probably be quad one. I don't believe Marquette's going to fall out of the net top 75, even though it's not looking good right now. They are 67th in KenPom, but I it'll be an uphill climb to make the tournament for Marquette at this point.
No, it really is. It has not been an ideal start to the season, and
that Maryland loss is not going to age well. Considering
it sounds like I saw last night that Farrell's injury isn't as serious as it looked.
Yeah, but regardless of that, they did not look good against Mount St. Mary's.
No, they did not.
And just not a good result for Marquette. Not a good result for the Big East. The Big East is going to have more, and obviously UConn has the win over BYU, but now has the loss to Arizona. Every team in the Big East besides Georgetown and Seton Hall now has a loss. Georgetown is playing in ESPN events against Dayton next week. That's going to be a big one. Seton Hall, obviously, in Maui. They start with NC State on Monday. So we'll get into that. Big East in a tough spot right now. We haven't really seen St. John's play. They've played only 3 games, and only one of them was a notable one so far. They're in Players Era, so we'll see them next week. But not a good start to the season for Marquette at all. Kansas State, Tulsa. Tulsa's impressed me so far this year.
Real quick before,
and I know Gary Parrish just found every way to talk about Tulsa on the Ion College Basketball Pod at this point because he saw them against Rhode Island. But yeah, Tulsa's been good. They blew this game.
Real quick, one last thing on Marquette before we transition here. They don't play in an MTE. They play Oklahoma next Friday at Credit Union 1 Arena. Some are calling it the house that Ahmad Henderson built. I'm not calling it that, but some are. If Marquette does not beat Oklahoma, a team that also I don't think is very good, we might have to get these guys out of here.
Yeah, that could, if they don't beat Oklahoma, this might end up falling out of
because after that, your only 2 other non-con games before your conference gets going. At Wisconsin, they're going to be a sizable dog in that, and at Purdue, they will be a sizable dog in that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tulsa absolutely blew this game in every way imaginable.
Yeah.
Also, I want to alert your attention to Kansas State because they're 4-0, but the last 3 halves of basketball that they've played have been horrific stuff.
Yeah. They allowed a lot of points. I think 62 in the second half to Cal, which is not good at all. Then they did not play good basketball against Tulsa. They ended up pulling out the win because they have PJ Haggerty and Tulsa doesn't anymore. maybe a little concerning for K-State that Andre Kostic just hasn't really done anything for them.
Kansas State plays tonight in the Hall of Fame Classic, I think, right?
Yes, they play Mississippi State in Kansas City.
I forget who the other two teams are in that, but we can give picks for the MTs that start tonight at the end of the show.
That would be Nebraska and New Mexico.
I did my silver sword yesterday.
Yeah, we'll talk about that and Baha later in the show, or at least pretty soon, probably.
Yeah.
Fun one at Gallagher Iba last night between Oklahoma State and South Florida. South Florida is going to play a lot of these like really fast, high possession games that get into the 90s and 100s. The lowest they've scored in a game this year is 95.
Last night?
Yeah, South Florida is 0-2 when it scores fewer than 100 points.
Yeah, there might be a underlying thing about the defense here, but yeah, that's a fun watch if nothing else.
Yeah, they made 15 threes. They took 39. Oklahoma State made 11. The fact of the matter is, like, both of these teams, at least Oklahoma State, also playing really fast. They're third in adjusted tempo right now. Victorious Miller has been really good to start the year. I mean, he had 24 in this game. Kanye Clary looked good. And again, like a lot of kind of one ball type stuff that I was worried about with Oklahoma State hasn't come back to bite them quite yet. Anthony Roy played just 16 minutes in this one, but scored 15 points. And that's kind of what you're going to get out of him. Like, maybe that's how you work on this. You just kind of play Roy in doses. You play Curry in doses. And you kind of let Miller run the show and Clary, who had a really strong game as well, as I mentioned. But for South Florida, man, Joe Pinion has already attempted 49 threes in 5 games.
Yeah, he'll get them up. That's for sure.
Yeah, he made 6 of them last night. It's pretty good. Let's then kind of one more thing that we need to talk about. San Diego State.
Real quick, I will see this Oklahoma State team in person 1 week from today.
Where?
At the United Center. They are part of that doubleheader.
Right.
Northwestern.
Troy beat San Diego State at Viejas in double overtime a couple nights ago. Again, there was San Diego State, Miles Bird tied it at the buzzer of regulation. It was crazy. San Diego State, though, did not lead this game by more than 4 points. And Troy led by double digits at one point late in regulation. San Diego State came back. Just a lot of free throws in this game as well. Sean Newman, definitely a little concerned about Sean Newman for San Diego State. Has not been a strong start to his season.
Agreed.
The usage is really low. The minutes are really low. The assist rate is a lot lower than we're used to. It's probably part because of the usage. Not really playing free. So definitely a little worried about that. Guath had a good first game back, though. Didn't miss a field goal.
I haven't seen San Diego State play this bad defensively against this level of team in a long time.
Was not good. They are in players era, so they can erase this, as you mentioned.
You know who they play Monday, right?
They play Michigan.
Two teams that are arguably looking to get right.
Yeah, I mean, like Michigan, obviously they haven't lost yet, but it hasn't looked as clean as we maybe thought it would. I think part of that is like, hey, Wake might not be that bad, and TCU.
Michigan is still winning games, and they've only dropped 2 spots in KenPom from the preseason, but they clearly have some issues that they're trying to fix right now.
Yeah, and we're not going to give out any helmet stickers today because we didn't really have time to put them in. But I do have some shout outs that I need to give from earlier in the week. On
Okay.
Monday night, Jalen Cox hit a game-winning buzzer beater from half court for Colgate against Siena. That was a wild game. Fun matchup. I will be at Siena tomorrow night for the Albany Cup against Albany. Siena looking for a win. They've now lost 2 in a row, but I don't think there's a ton to be discouraged about in those performances. Colgate, by the way, looking much better since the Northeastern loss where they kind of blew it and Cox didn't play the second half. I will see the Raiders tonight at Cornell. And then another thing from Monday night was that Penn beat Steve Donahue at the Palestra. And that was a huge part thanks to TJ Power, who had 23 points for the Quakers and 15 rebounds. Was the best he's played in college basketball thus far. Really good to kind of see him comfortable. And I think he's clearly found the level. And then Ethan Roberts, obviously awesome as well. St. Joe's now down to 151 in KenPom from preseason 109. Steve Donahue, not a good start to his tenure. And again, remember, they are not in players era. They're playing UNLV tonight on the road in Vegas. So something to keep an eye on. They could fall to 2-3. They could pick up a big win. Obviously, UNLV needs that game too. Both of those teams really need that.
Yeah.
And then want to make sure there's nothing else that I missed. Oh yeah, we were talking at one point about Yale and how they didn't how their schedule kind of shaped up for them to maybe be undefeated going into Alabama on December 29th. Rhode Island said no to that. Good performance by Jonah Hinton. The Rams got this win, and Yale wasn't able to kind of dominate the glass the way they usually do. And then obviously when Rhode Island makes 11 threes, it's going to make life a little difficult. But good performance by the Rams, who are now 4-1.
How about Archie Miller's crew?
All right, Jonathan, let's preview some of the other games we've got going on. Tomorrow, there are 2 quote unquote neutral site games that we got to get into that are not part of MTEs that I want to quickly discuss before we talk Baha Mar.
Yeah.
Start with Wisconsin BYU at the Delta Center, 4:00 on Peacock. I don't know why this game is at 4:00, but it is.
Hey, day basketball. We take that, right?
Yeah, 4:00 Eastern on Peacock. Wisconsin, BYU coming off that loss to UConn on Saturday. AJ DeBonsta had that big second half. Wisconsin, so far this season, has not played anybody. They are 4-0. They haven't played like 300s level teams, but they have not played anybody notable. What are you looking to see out of Wisconsin in kind of the first time we're going to get to see them on the big stage?
Well, I'm more looking to see how bad BYU is going to be on the boards because they're like, as far as we know, Kebakate is probably not playing, right? Like,
yeah,
they're so that's what I'm looking to see, and that's not even to mention that BYU's down another key starter in Kennard Davis right now. But on the Wisconsin side, this is obviously the first Wisconsin test of the year. They've played all bye games to this point, and Nick Boyd has had a really high usage rate so far this year. Not something I saw coming. I'm interested to see if that continues with them playing a tougher and better overall opponent. And I'm also interested to see the front court. Like Austin Rapp and Nolan Winter are 2 guys that can stretch the floor, and so I think you'll see a lot of 5-out looks from Wisconsin, which I don't think they went to last year at points, but with Crowell, like he did go inside when they had Tyler Wall. He obviously was a post player as well. But I think, this is going to be a lot more modern Wisconsin team like we kind of saw last year, and even more to that extent.
Very curious for me about Wisconsin's bench. I think we know that their starting lineup is good. Boyd, Blackwell, Winter, Rapp, and Rhodey. It's solid. What are they going to get off their bench? So far, they've played the bench a decent amount. Carrington's been solid. Janicki has not been great, but he's been playing. They've played some of the freshmen a little bit. But I don't think they'll really be able to afford to go that deep into their bench tonight. I want to know, how deep is Greg Gard going to go? How much is he going to ride with his starters in this first big game? And what can it tell us about them going forward? As for BYU, I want to see if they can put together a full 40. We obviously saw them kind of put together a full 40 against Holy Cross. But outside of that, we haven't seen them put together a full 40 yet. Villanova game, they had their moments. They also kind of had some moments where they were not very good. Obviously, without Davis and Kaida, it'll be tough. But I am very interested to see if the Cougars can put together a full 40 against Wisconsin with that semi-home crowd. I think, though, with that in mind, given that if Keita and Davis don't play, I think I would probably lean towards Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'll take Wisconsin.
Not sure how good not sure how well they'll defend, but I think they'll really be able to put up points in this game.
I think that
this is going to be a high-scoring game.
I think that Boyd and Blackwell are both going to be able to get to the rim, and there's not going to be a ton of resistance at the rim unless Keita plays. And same thing kind of on the perimeter. Like, how is BYU going to be able to guard, the dribble handoffs and, pick and pops that Wisconsin runs?
And then at the Heritage Bank Center in Cincinnati, homecoming game for Pat Kelsey against the Bearcats. Jonathan, Louisville has the number 2 offense in the country per KenPom. Cincinnati has the number 2 defense in the country per KenPom. So this is a fun one. Which unit do you think is better? And obviously, I think we both agree Louisville's defense is better than Cincinnati's offense. But between the Louisville offense and Cincinnati defense, who do you think is going to have the edge in this one?
I think it's Louisville's offense, just because it's a good shooting team that is mainly going to be high variance throughout the year, and it's hard to predict whether or not they're going to hit threes, because they'll get them up regardless if Cincinnati guards the perimeter tough as well. Cincinnati has length, but
especially with Sean,
I don't think Louisville's defense is quite as bad as they're ranked right now. I don't know if they have a good defense, but they're 58th right now in KenPom. I don't know if they're nearly that bad. And I think this is a Cincinnati team that is still struggling to score on the offensive end. And I just trust Louisville to be able to score enough points to win this game.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be something where Louisville's going to be able to kind of get out and run, play their game. We know Cincinnati doesn't really want to do that they've been playing fast this year. But again, I don't think they're as equipped in those types of games. I think that Louisville will force turnovers. Cincinnati will turn it over. They have not been protecting the ball very well so far this year. And Louisville is very opportunistic in that sense. They'll get out and run in transition. They'll hit their transition threes. And I think Louisville can put up some big numbers in this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we've got to talk Baha Mar. This is kind of the first big MPE to start.
Mm-hmm. There's 3 that start today, right?
Yeah, but this is the first big one.
Yes.
Baha Mar basketball. This was last year. We got the St. John's Baylor game that was a game of the year candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get started and talk about these games. First of all, Purdue-Memphis at 6 Eastern. CBS Sports Network. Jonathan, what are you looking for out of the Tigers?
Life. Can they keep this like close at all? They just got blown out on their home floor by UNLV, and I don't know if those of you who have been paying attention this year have noticed, but UNLV is not as good as Purdue.
For me, what I'm looking at, again, kind of a sign of life, because Memphis' schedule, like, they don't play like easy games. They have Southern Illinois and New Orleans, but both of those teams are in the top 200. Those are not like the guaranteed like 300s by games that you're going to see. And then they have Baylor, Louisville, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, all before conference play. And they're probably already reeling after the loss to UNLV. We need to see Memphis come out and kind of take it to Purdue, kind of take the energy to this game, because they didn't bring it against UNLV. I look at Memphis right now, and I see a team that, again, like, it's not as talented as they've been in the past years. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah,
but somebody kind of needs to step up and be the leader for his team and kind of get them to a point where they can kind of get out there and bring the energy at a level where they can compete with Purdue. I'm not saying you need to win this game, because they're probably not going to, even if they play their best game. But they need to play like this game, like their lives depend on it, and it just hasn't felt like we've seen that from them so far.
Memphis started the season at 52nd in Ken Palm. They've dropped to 76.
And that's like almost all because of the UNLV game.
What's concerning about that, though, is this is like the portion of the season when Memphis usually moves up in Ken Palm. Like, conference play is when they play down to teams because, like, you know, the conference isn't as good, so there's less room for error. And if Memphis plays bad, it affects them more.
Memphis was 28th in Ken Palm on January 10th last year.
Yeah, and they finished the season 54th. So,
Yep.
like, this is dangerous territory for Memphis. Like, this is, if they go 0-2 here, they have Southern Illinois and New Orleans coming up after that. The schedule following that.
Yeah, I already mentioned this.
Yeah.
Jonathan, then there's Purdue, the number 1 offense in college basketball for Ken Palm right now. They are number 4 in Ken Palm. They have that big win on the road over Alabama. They are 4-0. They also handed Akron its first loss, a really good Akron team, on Sunday. The Boilermakers come into this. They could steamroll. They really could. Jonathan.
Yeah. I don't expect either of these games at Baha to be close tonight.
Interesting. I kind of expect the second one to be like a little competitive. Maybe that's just me being naive, but I think Wake's been really good to start the year, and we'll talk about that right now. Wake Forest, I know they have the loss to Michigan, but I've liked what I've seen from them for the most part. I
don't think Wake usually scales up very well.
That's fair. That's very fair. But I also think Texas Tech is a pretty thin team, even though they're getting some guys back. They're still pretty thin for the most part. And I think that Wake, maybe not the deepest team themselves, but I think that Wake has some good bodies in there that I like. I'm really interested to see how Wake attempts to guard JT Toppin. He's obviously huge. Like, Trayvon Spillers is one of the best defenders in the ACC. I wonder if they're going to try and put him on Toppin. Marquez Marion has been really good defensively this year as well. So I do think Wake has some bodies in the front court that will make this a compelling matchup. But I mean, obviously JT Toppin is one of the best players in the sport. I wouldn't be surprised if he just completely goes off on anybody, but want to see how Wake kind of reacts to that. Want to see what types of looks they throw. Juke Harris has been awesome this year for them offensively, and I love his I think his game, he could have another big one, no doubt. I think that's what they need to have happen if this is going to be close. I'm not sure if this is going to be close, but definitely more confident in this one being close than Purdue-Memphis.
Yeah, agree.
But I think we both agree we're going to get Purdue-Texas Tech.
Indeed.
Jonathan, what would you be looking for in that game?
Same thing really with every Texas Tech game. Like, how do you defend Toppin? He is probably, I don't know if he'll win the National Player of the Year award or any National Player of the Year award, but at this point, I would probably describe JT Toppin as the most unstoppable player in the sport.
I agree.
And Illinois kind of lived with it. They let him get his, and they stopped everyone else for the most part. I'm interested to see if Purdue does the same, because like it's again a front court that's pretty deep. You have three guys there that theoretically are top in size. Like TKR is not going to guard him, but
TKR is not going to guard me.
Do they dig in from the weak side? They'll try to make him obviously go over his left shoulder and away from his left hand. I think that'll be a really fun one. That'll be Saturday, right?
I also no, it's Friday.
Did they have a day off last year at this tournament?
They did not.
Okay, I must be.
I also look at this and just say, like, yeah, I know you have big bodies. Purdue's big bodies aren't the type of guys that like you would want guarding this type of player.
Also, how ready is Bam Boy? That's a question heading into this weekend for sure. I think that on the perimeter, like how does Texas Tech defend these guards? Specifically Braden Smith.
Yeah, I don't like again, I think another guy that you don't really have a way to defend him because we saw it kind of last year. And 2 years ago as well, the growth in him picking apart different pick and roll coverages. He's so comfortable dribbling around the hedge now. He's so comfortable making space for himself and for opponents with his body. I think I've been saying this for a couple of years now, the best player in college basketball at using his body to create angles for passes. When he gets in the lane, when he gets 2 feet in the paint, he's awesome with that. I think that's one of the things for Purdue that people don't notice, that people don't think about, that makes Braden Smith. It's the small things, obviously just great passer in general, but it's the small things that make him a great passer. And he's obviously amazing. But we also look at Purdue, and I think they're just a much deeper team than Texas Tech. They have a bunch of guys off the bench that I think can make an impact, come in, give guys a breather. Omer Mayer has been fun to start the year. Daniel Jacobson gives them a much taller look at the 5.
I think that Texas Tech's probably going to switch ball screens, right?
Yeah.
And force guys out of the middle of the floor. I think that that's probably the ideal way if you can execute it to play Purdue, because
you don't want to let them get to the middle of the floor because that's where TKR.
And you don't want to give Braden opportunities to play make off a ball screen.
Yeah, and that, like the middle of the floor, kind of that key area is where TKR does most of his damage. When he can get to that spot and figure out whether it's a post up or a face up from 12 feet out.
Yeah, we've gotten to the point with Braden where if you play drop coverage, he's going to score. If you trap, he's going to pass out of it and hit a short roller. And if you hedge, he's going to do what Cassius Winston did at Michigan State and just dribble around it and then make a play.
I mean, yeah, he's the best point guard in college basketball.
He does have some Cassius Winston qualities to him in that aspect.
He's best Big Ten point guard since Cassius Winston.
Yeah,
probably better.
Oh yeah, and Cassius was different.
Much.
Braden got the luxury of
Edie.
playing a lot as a freshman and a sophomore.
If
And
you were to say best Big Ten point guard since, if he's better than Cassius, Braden's the best Big Ten point guard since. Is it Trey Burke?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think.
Yeah. I mean, Trey Burke was a National Player of the Year.
And Braden Smith?
That's the measuring stick, right?
And Braden Smith was a National Player of the Year caliber last year.
Cassius his junior and senior year. More so his junior year, because his senior year he struggled at the start of the year. But he was too.
Yeah, I agree. But that should be a really fun game. I love watching Purdue. I love watching Texas Tech. We haven't even mentioned the name Christian Anderson. That's the guy that obviously struggled in the game against Illinois shooting the ball. He's one of the best shooters in the sport. He shot 38% from three last year on high volume. He's 38% this year, even with the bad game against Illinois. So if he goes off, like, this is, again, makes it the difficult decision of, like, hey, if you let Toppin get his and force everyone else to beat you, and Christian Anderson just beats you, like, Christian Anderson is good enough to just beat you himself, regardless, even if he doesn't have Toppin. So again, the let Toppin beat you strategy. To let the other guys beat you when Toppin gets his. Like, that's not the only thing that you got to worry about with Texas Tech.
It's funny because, there were teams that tried to do that with Zach Edey at Purdue 2 years ago, and that's how UConn won the national title.
Yeah, I mean, everybody in that game not named Zach Edey, just not good for Purdue. Braden was.
I think that Texas Tech.
Braden was okay, but everyone.
I think that Texas Tech has enough weapons to win against that defense, even if they're trying to stop them. Like Christian Anderson can be really good if the defensive game plan is.
I think the thing that I'm starting to notice, just kind of breaking down all these games, is that, and we've been talking about this as well. Too many teams are just that much better offensively than defensively right now.
Not usually what you see at this point in the year. The Champions Classic, as fun as it is and as prestigious as it has become, is usually not great basketball.
No.
And I don't think it was superb, but there have been some ugly games in the Champions Classic.
No doubt. There have also been some really, really beautiful games in the Champions Classic.
Yeah. And I've seen a couple of them.
We should also kind of get into the Kansas City games tonight.
Yeah. Who are you picking in Baha, Mar? We need a pick, Fetterman.
I mean, Purdue, I think, is kind of the bailout answer.
Did you pick them in Silver Sword?
Yeah, I did pick Purdue in Silver Sword.
I picked Texas Tech.
I think that's fair. I picked a lot of teams in Silver Sword that are not going to be my pick to win the tournament because of the points, the way that works.
Yeah, I just want to hear who you picked. I picked Texas. I had these two teams fairly similar in the preseason, only separated by a couple spots in my rankings. And if you're going to give me double the points for Texas Tech, I think you have to take that.
Yeah,
with how they play defense, I think that's the ideal way to try to guard Purdue.
Yeah, but I also kind of think 2 games in 2 days for a team that is that's thin and has been that injured as well. Yeah, it's a little difficult. So there's that, and then the Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City. First game is Nebraska, New Mexico. New Mexico lost to New Mexico State on Saturday. That's always a tough game, no matter how good or bad either program is. But it's not going to look good on a resume, obviously. They need to bounce back. I think Tomislav Buljan has been really solid for them to start the season. International freshman from Croatia. They've also got Dayton Aubrey, who's been okay. The efficiency hasn't been awesome. The usage has been high. We'll have to see what they get out of him. Have been pretty impressed by Uriah Tennant, the freshman for New Mexico. Antonio Chola has had a pretty low usage rate for maybe what I expected. We'll have to see kind of how that develops throughout the season. And then obviously for Nebraska, the Cornhuskers offense is awesome. They're 4-0. They have the nation's longest active winning streak, Jonathan.
And it'll continue to 10 after this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I had them winning in the Silver Sword, and I have them winning this as well.
Yeah, first of all, they have an easier first round matchup than Mississippi State, who's the Silver Sword favorite to win this tournament. They get to play New Mexico while Mississippi State's going to be playing a de facto road game today against K-State and Kansas City. And also, I've been impressed with Nebraska's offense. They've played some really good ball early in the year, and I think you said it over the weekend. We don't know if they'll be able to stop anyone, but I don't know if it's going to matter in this tournament. Mississippi State's been really relying on Josh Hubbard so far this year, and Kansas State is, like we've said, they've struggled in their last 3 halves of basketball pretty severely.
Yeah, I like this Nebraska team so far. Rick Mast has been awesome. Price Sanford's been really good.
Mm-hmm.
The offense is electric. They take a lot of threes. They make a lot of threes. They don't turn it over. It's really fun stuff.
How do you feel about Jamarcus Lawrence playing point?
Honestly, I haven't minded it as much as I thought I would.
He's turned it over a lot, but
he has.
Probably their best option.
But I also think that the amount that they have Mast creating from different spots on the floor, they have a bunch of guys with that can pass. They have a roster full of guys that can pass. So I don't think the ball is ever in one guy's hands too much. So I don't mind Lawrence kind of handling it. I don't mind Sanford doing a little handling. I never mind Mast obviously doing it. So I think that's big for them. Mast being back completely changes everything. But you come out of this 6-0. They play Creighton on December 7th. If they go into that game 8-0, which they absolutely could, if they win these next 4, that would be a matchup that we will definitely be talking about on this pod, and it will be regardless. But they also open Big Ten play after that with Wisconsin home and Illinois away. So we're going to learn a lot about Nebraska before mid-December.
Do we know if Leo Curtis is healthy?
I'm not sure.
He's not going to play. He doesn't play a ton, but I think he gives you
They shut him down. They shut him down ahead of the New Mexico game.
Okay. Anything else?
He will be shut down for up to 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then the Kansas State Mississippi State game.
Chaos. 2 really good point guards. So excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 really different point guards too.
Yeah, Haggerty's gonna get downhill. Hubbard is gonna shoot.
Yeah, and Hubbard's gotten to the line a bunch this year for sure, though. So that's something to note. So far this year, Hubbard's assist rate is up a lot higher than it has been in the past. His free throw rate is up a lot higher than it's been in the past, and the 3-point attempt rate it's not as high as it has been in the past compared to his 2-point attempts. So I think that's something to keep an eye on if that continues. A lot of early season statistical trends to know, but Mississippi State already obviously has the loss to Iowa State. Iowa State's in players era next week. Kansas State
undefeated.
They are down 5 spots in preseason KenPom, despite the number 7 3-point shooting offense in the country so far, which is not a great sign, although I will say it is a good sign that they're making threes. I think we kind of knew coming into the year that they would, if Bashir could get going, they would have him good. Castillo can shoot. Nate Johnson's shot really well. We talked about this on our last show, I believe, for K-State, just the shooting and how well they've been shooting it so far. So that's something to know. I sent you something last night about that stat as well. I was trying to figure out what that was exactly. It was, UCF has the number 1 3-point shooting offense in the country right now and is down 11 spots from preseason Ken Baum. So that is not great.
Yeah, I don't trust that team, not one bit.
And then there's also the Boardwalk Battle. Starts today.
High Point should be the clear favorite in this.
I agree. I picked them in Silver Sword, and it's usually tough for me to do that when they are the clear favorite. But and they are the team that is going to be the
you see, I am trying to find value in Silver Sword, but like I'm also just trying to pick winners.
Yeah, no doubt. Incarnate Word in Southern Indiana is the opening game at 12:30 today. Southern Indiana has not been good to start the season. They are dead. They are 362nd in effective field goal percentage. That'll probably. I mean, I don't know if that'll change. They are probably due for some positive regression though in that category. Although I do think Incarnate Word is a solid team. They pushed Indiana, kind of, and they're definitely talented. Taj Stavesky has had a strong start to his season. Former Canisius player that I covered back in the day. So Incarnate Word, definitely keeping an eye. But High Point, the clear favorite. And I think UIC is the second best team in this as well. So I think that those two teams probably should have been separated in the matchup making. UIC had the loss to Oregon State, almost lost to Chicago State. So they could use a bounce back performance. That was obviously a road game though at Chicago State. So, and you can never take anything for granted in this sport. Elijah Crawford has not played in their last 3 games. Jonathan, do you know what's up with him?
I do not. He's obviously a talented player though, and certainly could use him against High Point.
They did lose to UAB last Friday, but the Panthers offense is awesome.
And UIC played a close game at Chicago State.
Yep, mentioned that.
I know that's a semi-rivalry game, but
High Point has a lot of dudes that can shoot. So,
real quick before we get out of here, I want to. I didn't want to save this for tomorrow, but I want to alert your attention to some of the MTEs here. One of my favorite activities every year is pointing out the outrageous names of some of the brackets and the tournaments. So first, the first one I want to point out, the ESPN Events Invitational. You have 3 brackets this year. You have the Adventure bracket, the Imagination bracket, and the Magic bracket. So that's fun. Little Disney spin on it. This is the most outrageous one I've seen. The Acrisure series. They didn't actually name these. There are 4 events in the Acrisure series this weekend. You have the Acrisure Classic, the Acrisure Holiday Classic, the Acrisure Invitational, and the Acrisure Holiday Invitational.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
How am I supposed to keep track of this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Elsewhere, I think that might be all I have.
I have one main thing. UTEP yesterday, I watched the end of this game, just kind of escaped at a home game against Division III St. Thomas, which is a school in Houston. St. Thomas last year was hosting in the D3 tournament. I think they were a top 5 seed nationally in the D3 tournament, and they were a really, really good team last season. They had a chance in this game. They They just recently lost to Wash U by 1 point, and Wash U, as you know, very, very good Division III program, ranked 5th in the country. So great D3 pushing a D1 program to the edge, to the brink, overtime in El Paso last night.
One other notable thing, he was hurt. He got hurt at the end of the game last Sunday. Keyshawn Hall did not play for Auburn last night.
Yeah, that is something to keep an eye on. Also, just some other games that are interesting tonight. Arizona State is playing at Hawaii. Hawaii is up to 93 in KenPom right now.
My favorite in that game?
On KenPom, they are. Hawaii is the current KenPom highest team in the Big West. So that is something to know.
Yeah, Irvine has not played super well to start the year.
They have not. But I still think Irvine's a solid team. Notable, though, that the two teams projected to be at the top of the WAC have both won those games against Irvine so far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The 7-team WAC. All right, Jonathan. Just make sure I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I mean we have our show tomorrow.
Yeah. All right, Jonathan.
There will be plenty of good non-MTE games during Feast Week. We will get to those as well at some point.
Got it. I gotta get out of here.
So Sam has class, so that's a show. If you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came for the use of microwaves during the show, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This has been Season 6, Episode 53 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. We'll see you next time.